I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is a sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
We are in the swamps of Elkhorn. We've got a amphibious guy with us. I don't know, is that a word?
No.
I don't know. Well, so this man, you may recognize him when you hear his voice.
The reptiles.
The reptiles, yeah. We're in person again. You may recognize this guy from his award-winning podcast,
In-Camera Review, which is attorneys reviewing films.
Yeah. You may also recognize this guy because he's prosecuted your brother. I'm kidding, but we're really excited for our man Gator. We're actually in his basement recording studio right now, which is pretty phenomenal. But we'll get to that later in the kind of MTV Cribs edition. But anyway, Gator, super glad to have you. And start us off. Where did you start F3? Who EH'd you first workout? Give us the juicy deets.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on. We'll have to have you guys on the In-Camera Review podcast as guests sometime. So I started April 21st, 2021, and kind of backing up from that, 4 years before then, my wife and family and I, we moved to Omaha in the summer of 18. Didn't know many people, and I was working in Council Bluffs as a federal prosecutor. And so one of the guys that I met in doing that as a defense attorney was Toadstool. Of course, I didn't know his name was Toadstool at the time. He was just Sean. So he and I are in the middle of a trial, and we're talking before his client is about to testify, and he's trying to figure out whether his client is going to testify or not. And he says, "You should come to my workout group." And I just said, "Okay." And I didn't know a thing about F3 at all. Since I moved, when I moved to Omaha, I started running. And really running seriously for the first time in my life. And so I was running, 20, 30 miles a week, and I lost 40 pounds. And so that was that was my fitness level at that point. But I was always running by myself. I worked out at the Y during my lunch break. Yeah. Didn't really have anybody to, hang out with. It was just earbuds and not really meeting people. So I was in a position where I was ready to say yes to that kind of, if somebody was going to extend an invitation like that, I was up for it.
Yeah.
Well, and I love the pitch, right? I mean, it's an adversarial setting. Hey, come join me. Okay, I'll be there.
What, as a lawyer, I mean, that had to be right, because I remember hearing that story for the first time, thinking like, aren't you guys competing against each other? Like, kind of like you're, so it's like this guy on the other team who's kind of like, hey, by the way, we should go work out together. Yeah. Like, how did that go over? Or you had known him outside of the courtroom, or?
So we just knew each other professionally, but we had worked together on a lot of cases. And then when you try a case against another lawyer, you get to know them pretty well. There's a lot of stuff that goes in pre-trial where you're negotiating and doing all kinds of things. And so we just got to be friends, just work friends. Yeah. So when he brought it up, it just sounded like just something fun to do with somebody that I liked, working with. And I would say that as a prosecutor, it's unusual to get along with defense attorneys. Yeah. They don't always like that you're prosecuting their client, and prosecutors have a lot of discretion. But as a prosecutor, I always wanted to have the best defense attorney on the other side because it's an adversarial system. I wanted them to make the best arguments on behalf of their client. That helps me sleep at night. And in this instance, Toadstool's client was actually acquitted. So
yeah. Okay. So yeah. Wow. I have
what a plug for Toadstool.
Yeah. Hey, Toadstool, I'll be reaching out soon. No, I'm kidding. I have so many questions. That'll be I think we might do a second part to this interview and just talk about lawyers, and maybe we'll get Dred back and go dive deep into the L source.
Yeah.
But I am curious. So first workout, where was that at? And I don't know if you remember who cued, and
yeah,
tell us about that experience.
So Toadstool just sent me, here are some workouts, here's the location. So I picked Aldrich Elementary on a Wednesday. had no idea what that was. Showed up, and somebody called him Toadstool, he said, "Oh, that's my nickname. You'll get one too."
Nice.
He's like, "Did you look up the website?" I was like, "No, I didn't look at anything." So show up, and a roll bar was the cue. So coupons, sandbags. I'll never forget picking up a 60-pound sandbag and trying to throw it as far as I could, and thinking, I've never done anything like this before.
Yeah.
But it was a great workout. I was sore for days. It was not in the fitness area that I had, which was just running, right? So strength training and stuff, I wasn't there. I couldn't reach up and get a cup out of the cupboard for about a week. But it was great. And then we got to the COT, and we got to the Namerama. And so of course I was one of those guys that said my name and my age and then just kind of blankly stared at the camera.
Oh
yeah. They're like, FNG. Oh yeah, that's right.
Nice.
So they pull me into the circle, and I say, who I am, and I say I'm from Tallahassee, Florida. I'm a big Florida State fan, so go Noles. There was just complete quiet, crickets, and I was like, well, this is the wrong crowd for that. So behind me, I hear a voice that I would later know to be Armbars.
Oh yeah.
And Armbar just says Gator. And I continued to talk about other stuff, and and it was Gator.
Yeah.
And so that was it.
That's awesome. How was, first experience like with the guys? Did you know anyone besides Toadstool there?
I only knew Toadstool, and it was like a partner workout. So he just kind of hung out with me the whole time, which was great. And so, that first workout was it was all kind of a blur, but it was just really just us just hanging out talking, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
After that, I went and got on the website and found out all about it. So I went to the Coop the next day, which was the launch, and Toadstool was queuing that.
Yeah.
And so then, I get this other completely different experience of seeing this huge workout with all these guys. And then Wait Time was my partner that day.
Nice.
And so I got all of my F3 questions answered. What is it we're doing? Why are we doing this? And I had no idea who Wait Time was, or what his role in F3 was. He was just telling me about that. And one of the things he told me was, you really ought to come to cafeteria, which was the first time I'd heard about that. He said, that's where you really get to know guys. And so the next day I went to the combine and met Mufasa. And if you've ever been an FNG, a new guy, and worked out with Mufasa, he is so welcoming.
Oh yeah.
That's the time where he actually is the nicest guy in F3.
Yeah.
He just doesn't stay that way.
Yeah.
But no, and so those first 3 days were just such a great experience. And so after that, I did my first Murph on Monday with FDIC, and went to cafeteria, and then it was like we were talking about this earlier. It was like 74 beatdowns in a row before I went on vacation and couldn't go. But I was in right away and just welcomed immediately, and it just had a huge impact on my life.
Well, and then before we actually started this, we had some time to talk to him before we started recording, and Gator actually kept a ledger of all of his workouts, which is actually really incredible for about the first year. So looking back at that ledger, you said you took some time. Any of them stick out for you? Any workouts in particular?
Yeah, for sure. So one of them, and just thinking about today, was the first time. So I started pre-running the next week at the Maze. And that was Cheap Seats Q. And he stayed with me. I was seeing Convoy. They slowed down, and I was not as fast as them, but they slowed down. And so since then, I just started pre-running every day. And then I heard about the Wild Kingdom and how that's a longer pre-run. So I go on this challenge, and I'm like, yeah, run 4.5 miles or whatever it is. And that happens to be the first time that I was at a plague queue.
Oh no.
And I remember laying down on the ground, and you were calling on people to do different exercises. And I was so out of breath, and I was so tired, just saying, please don't call on me. Please don't call on me. You were like, Gator, 20 flutter kicks.
Nice.
But yeah, it was fun to go through and just kind of relive some of those memories, and just think about some of the great COTs that really, for me, changed the character of F3 from just a workout group to, these guys are here. They're sharing things about themselves. I didn't think I would ever share anything about myself when I started listening, but I realized that that the culture was one that was authentic, and it was welcoming, and I just felt at home.
Man, there's so much to unpack there. And I was waiting for you to say that was the first time I pre-ran with the plague, and then he didn't stay back with me. So that wasn't your experience, although it's still not ideal. I will say, I did stop and walk with a F&G pre-runner this week. So for those of you that are following along and that's a struggle for me.
That's personal growth.
That's growth, baby. That's growth.
Getting better to the day you were before.
Man, so as you came into this group, what do you think it is? Because I think so retention is always on my mind, right? But it sounds like you came in, you hit the ground running. I mean, was it the coffee, or was it like should we try to get every F&G partnered with wait time? Like what's the secret sauce? Because I don't know, it just seems like you were hooked right from the beginning.
So the workouts were great because they were physically demanding, and they were pushing me and challenging me, and that's something that I wanted to do. But the second F was the pre-running and the cafeteria.
Yeah.
And I think that just was the accelerant on it for me. And so I feel like it'll happen at whatever pace that you are pushing F3 into your life. If I heard there was like a happy hour because Blue Suede was leaving. That was like within the first 2 weeks. I was like, well, I'm gonna go. I don't know anybody, but I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
And so it allowed it to have a faster impact. So I just think it's the more you lean in, the faster it happens. But that's on us to make sure that guys feel comfortable leaning in, and that they know this is a place that they can, and that they'll be well received.
That's very difficult, I think, because I think naturally as a person, I think I'm cooler than I actually am, and need to people to perceive me as that. So I don't tend to lean into things organizationally, like full force right away.
Sure.
So I think you're hitting on an important point of like kind of knocking down some barriers, and I don't know, some of it's personal accountability and knocking down your own barriers, but creating an environment where people do feel welcome.
Yeah.
Well, and then, before we started this, you have had some opportunity to EH some guys in your neighborhood, and just thinking about the EH that Toadstool did and your first workout, you talked about you guys were partnered together, and I'm curious on your opinion on whether or not you think so I think Plague and I have different philosophical views here on whether or not you bring a guy, should you throw them to the wolves and have them go by themselves, or should you kind of hold their hand and make sure that they're surviving?
Yeah, I love the show, guys. So
you know the difference.
I'm familiar with the debate, and and I think there are good arguments on both sides. I think that for me, if Toadstool would have just said, hey, have a good workout and I'll see you at the end, I think that would have been a very different experience for me. But that's just my personality type. And whereas I've EH guys and seen them go off and feel just as comfortable working out with me as just meeting somebody new, and that's just their personality. But I try to at least kind of give them the option and kind of be available, because I'm just seeing it through my own lens about what I would want. But I really do think that it depends on the FNG and what their kind of what their personality is, because you're either going to be comfortable with a bunch of people you don't know, or you're not.
Yeah.
And I come on that. I'm an extrovert, but I was also just I didn't know anything about what was going on. I had no understanding, and these are people that I'm, meeting in Omaha, and really don't know anybody else. Right. So I didn't have a group of friends in Omaha. I had legacy friends from, back home and things like that. So it was all, new to me.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I'm noticing. So Desk Pop is a guy I know through a friend of my wife's. He's not from here. He started this week and he's gone every day, right? And so there is something to, like, if you don't live here, and the fellowship piece. I don't know. Tell us about that from your perspective.
So Ozark and I have talked a lot about that. He's originally from Illinois. I'm from Florida, okay. And then I lived in Alabama. He lived in Oregon. So we moved here. We had done the move to an unfamiliar place before, and kind of evaluate, how difficult or easy it is to get involved in the community and meet people. We happened to be neighbors, which was great because we saw each other. Yeah. And then I convinced him to come out to F3, and we realized for us that it was such a great way for us to meet people in the community outside of our street and our jobs, and our kids' schools and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That that's where you made real friendships. Mm-hmm. When we got involved in this, and so I see it as such an asset for people who are not from a community to feel like they are. I couldn't tell you who is from Omaha and who isn't when I'm at a workout. Yeah. I never feel out of place. And I don't get the impression that anybody else feels anything less than welcome.
Nice.
I think you kind of hit that on the head. I was a transplant too, so I had the same feeling of, hey, I don't know anyone, so I kind of gotta get into it somehow, right? It helps you find people. I'm curious on if that sense of community is translated if you're going downrange, and have you been able to post downrange anywhere and can speak to that?
So I have not gone downrange. I've talked to a lot of guys that have and heard kind of mixed results on that. But I have noticed that when I try to push myself every once in a while to go and cue the danger zone, or make it out east just every once in a while, and there are a group of guys that post fairly regularly to the same sites, and so when you show up there, they're kind of, they're excited to see their friends that they usually see. And so what I found is great is just being able to, show up and kind of just, say, hey, I want to listen. I want to get to know people here, and just ask questions and pre-run with guys and get to know them that I usually don't work out with. And so in that sort of, the bigger, the region, my experience has been is that guys love talking to guys who don't usually post there or don't usually queue there. I mean, it's just, even with the nonsense trivia that I like to do, guys are still good sports about that.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that too. And I think anymore, some sites feel downrange even when they're not, even in our own region. So I think that's, it's good to venture out and not forget to go to some of those sites. I do think one of the things that I know about you is that you like to shake a weasel every now and then. And I think when I say that, what I mean is you like to ask really good questions, and you get guys perspectives on things that are, like you haven't been downrange, but I bet you could tell us a whole bunch of stories about downrange experiences, because you come from this really cool place to love and just compassion for other people. But how has that helped your second F kind of relationships grow? Because I notice even in my own journey, like, and this, I forget who I was talking to, maybe it's Folsom or somebody, they actually said, I love when Pony's on the cast because he asks really good questions. And I was kind of offended. And
thank God.
That one thing. And then I realized that maybe I'm not always the best listener. I don't ask the best questions. And so trying to learn from guys like you, but I would imagine that would help your kind of second F. I want to call it like your second F game, but it's not really, but just your relationship building, right? Or I guess what's been your experience there?
So, the great thing about pre-running often is, you get to see the same kind of pre-runners, if you're posted at the same sites. And so like, that's where my shield lock came out of, was running with guys like Cheap Seats and Barn Door and Blades of Glory, and then seeing Mufasa show up late and then us all making fun of them.
Yeah.
So that's when you're seeing those guys and you're really starting to get to know them, on that deeper level, that's when you start, getting together, outside of F3, and those relationships happen. But I would say to your question about, sort of the second F is just, I just lean into all of the other things, whether it's a happy hour, cafeteria, and I'm always trying to, talk to people that I don't know, because it's just a great, easy environment to get to know somebody. So like, Boji, he started posting out east just when he was coming in town on business, and then he ended up moving here, and he's now another neighbor.
Nice.
But so he showed up, to the Armory, and I got to know him at cafeteria, and so and then now we see each other all the time, and but in asking questions, finding out what guys are going through. What can F3 do for them that can fulfill their need?
Yeah.
So Boji's a runner, encouraging him to pre-run, getting him to come out and do that, it has been great. And then seeing guys who are looking to accelerate more, and pushing them to say, hey, I'll pre-run with you, or just, hey, if you make some time for coffee, I try to make sure that if guys are doing that I talk to them.
Yeah.
If I talk them into going to coffee, I try to
meet him there.
And so, and that's, I am not the best. I appreciate what you said. I'm not the best listener. I often talk more than I should. I think if you ask my M, she would agree with that statement. But F3 has been so great for me to really try to develop that as a skill, and the guys that post are so interesting, and everybody's got a different story, that if you just listen, you can really find some amazing things.
Well, I kind of think what's incredible is that kind of alluded to something that we've been talking about before this podcast started, was the sectoring of all these different areas of Omaha, right? You're giving an example of how we didn't lose the common mission of F3. You had an East guy who moves out west, but still feels the same sense of community at a Westo workout, right? And maybe it is, we need to do a better job as individuals of, I know I'm guilty of only posting on the east side. It's convenient for me. I just am a creature of habit and post there. And I do see the guys I know, and maybe it is, hey, I need to take the extra step to go out west and continue to build that. So I just wanted to acknowledge it. I think that, there's a lot of talk right now about how big F3 has gotten, and especially here in Omaha, and what we're going to do. And you guys are kind of on the front lines of that for sure. But I do want to make sure that you guys recognize we are keeping some good.
Yeah.
And I just think that's a perfect example.
Yeah, the khakis challenge that used to occur in October, you got a patch if you hit every site. That's hard to do in 30 days anymore, so it is kind of cool to see the growth. But I do think, to your point, getting around and just I noticed even with my move from east to out west, the guys that posted west side are still great guys.
Yeah,
right?
right.
The only thing that has changed it in that equation is like where I live and how far I can drive, before a pre-run at 4:45. So it is really cool to see the culture sustained over time. I saw Brazilian at a workout this last week, and
That guy posts.
Yeah, he posted, and honestly, I was texting him afterwards, and it was kind of like it felt like the band got back together, for a workout, and that's a really cool feeling. And the thing about guys in F3 is like, nobody's judging you when you're out there. If anything, it's more of like, we just want to make sure you're okay, and we just want to make sure that you're still getting that sense of community or just support. And I guess where I would segue this for you, Gator, is as you've been injured, kind of going through some of that. You made a comment to me the other day. I'm doing queen service because I don't like fat Gator, and we can go there if you want to, but more so kind of in that mental battle space of like the guy that drifts away and comes back and drifts away and comes back. Talk us through that from your perspective.
So when, I usually post, 6 days a week and pre-run, 5 days a week. And so when I get injured, and it's very disruptive to me, because in a bad way. Yeah. And Armory gave a great COT once that really stuck with me about this book about chop wood, carry water. And the takeaway from it is that for me, pre-running, going to the beat down 6 days a week, that's chop wood, carry water. That's my start to a successful day. I got to do that work so I can be better that day. And when I don't, I'm not. And that becomes a problem for me. So knowing that about myself, I push myself to go to workouts injured, and then either modify or get frustrated that I can't do the workout. But then also I pushed it too far this last time I got injured, and I was injured for a lot longer than I needed to be because I wanted to go run at Wild Kingdom, and after about mile 3.5, my knee gave out again. And I was probably injured for a lot longer than I needed to be. And that's because I know that if I'm not working out, that I'm not going to be doing a good job. And so once I finally, went to the doctor, and, through the urging and advice of guys like Retweet and Icy Hot, who are fantastic guys, if you've ever been injured, they're always there for you. But, I got into a situation where I knew that I should not post. And I knew that I was not going to get better if I didn't. And but it was a balance between knowing what would happen in as not posting and sort of spiraling down, and as I've talked about, I slowed down enough to where the SadClown that I've been out running caught up to me. And so the only thing that really kept me going was being psych Q at the Armory, and showing up there every Friday, but for that and getting the graciousness of guys like Tonight Show and Slow Pitch, and these guys that were there for me when I was injured. I would have just lost touch with F3, and I probably wouldn't have come back. Because that's me when I'm not doing my daily work over a period of time. That arc bends down.
I think that's common, right? I think for most people when they come in, right, first and foremost, it's a workout. Like they're going for the workout when they first come, and I'm the same way, where my day is substantially better, exponentially better if I'm working out beforehand. And I could see how you could get in the cycle of, oh, well, I need to push myself, maybe even to the point where the extent is an injury. I guess I want to unpack a couple of things there. I mean, in your opinion, do you think we do a good job of encouraging people to modify or having additional workouts for the bruisers or anything like that? And then secondary to that, as you transitioned into a period of where you couldn't work out, were there resources there for you to where you could continue to stay engaged with the packs? And were we doing a good job of encouraging you?
So as far as the bruiser workouts go, it's difficult because, I remember when Chicklets got really injured on the Murph, Chicklets would love to have a running workout or a leg day when he was injured. And I know guys that were able to put on some of those workouts for him and he could do that. But for me, when I was injured, I couldn't do any of that. And so really what I realized in that process was, it doesn't matter what the workout is. What matters is that, if somebody's willing to give up their workout to just walk with you, and you have somebody so that, you're not, you don't feel like you're slowing everybody down and you don't feel like you're taking away from everybody's workout. Where guys would give up their workouts for me, that meant more to me than, just going to a queue that happened to be one I could do. Having said that, I really appreciated the guys that did that, especially they queued the Armory, that they knew that I was hurt and they modified their queues just so I could do them. All of that was very meaningful. But yeah, the bruiser thing is tough because, on the one hand, you got to get better so you can get out there. On the other hand, you don't want to be gone too long because that has its own adverse consequences. But to your question about staying in touch, I can't tell you. I mean, I could show you all the texts that I've gotten over the last year from guys just reaching out, just saying they haven't seen me and wondering how I was doing. Guys pushing me to do things that I know I should do that I didn't. Roadhouse was really great about trying to get me to come to coffee, and other guys were as well. And that's something that I didn't do enough of because, I think Buns of Steel was on and he had a great interview with you guys where he talked about being injured and how it's like, well, if you're going to get up and work out, that's one thing, but if you're going to get up just to go have coffee, well, you can have coffee here. Yeah. And so it becomes one of those things where, you're not in the best place. You're not your best self. And, being injured is a difficult thing to navigate, but, were it not for those guys that did reach out, that made me feel still connected, even when I didn't feel connected, that they were still connected to me and they still cared, that meant so much. And so, yeah, I think we do a great job, and it's I think Slow Pitch told me it's one of those things that's it's a gift you're given and you got to give it away. And if you give it away, you get to keep it. And so I have when I see guys that are injured now or the six or, those kinds of things, I have a totally different mindset about it because my first priority is not me getting my best workout when I'm there, is making sure that everybody else is having a good time too.
And we're trying to accommodate that with some of the different workouts, right? I mean, we've got Coronado that's a little bit more of a bruiser beatdown, but not necessarily removing the difficulty from it. And then I think I love the catalyst, which I think when we put it on our F3 Nation map, it's a movement and mumble chatter AO, because really the design there allows, like, you could walk, right? You could show up at 5:15 and walk, a mile or two, or ruck, or whatever you want to do.
Right.
So I think we're noticing that trend, because I think a lot of times a guy gets injured and there isn't a lot to keep them hooked in. But I do, for those of you listening, Pony had to leave, so the question sort of value may go down here with just me solo, so I apologize in advance. But I do, so a couple of things that I wanted to pick your brain on that you've mentioned. So you've mentioned, your M, you've mentioned shield lock, really some Q source kind of topics. Tell me about Q source. Has that been a valuable thing for you? And then would also love for you to share any insight from your shield lock, because I know you have a model shield lock from what I've heard that other guys would maybe want to try to emulate. So anything you could share on Q source or shield lock would be fantastic.
Yeah, so I was a combine guy every Friday, and when Sparty was the first Q there at the combine that I went to, and I started going to Q source there every Friday, and that really had a big impact on me right away. So just not just the material itself, but just the discussion and guys feeling, comfortable sharing. And I got hit with the concentrica in that Q source. And that is something that really intrigued me because I've always struggled with what I used to call work-life balance. And what I now understand to be the concentrica. And so I talk about this a lot on my COTs because it really is something that is not something that I achieve and then move on to the next thing. It's something that's a daily struggle for me. And so keeping my M at the priority and then focusing on my kids, being able to flip that mindset that I used to have where really work was the most important thing to me for a long time. And even when I think, that I'm doing a good job with balancing work and family, what I realize is that I'm oftentimes just choosing my own ego, and that I enjoy, being a good husband and being a good father is the two most difficult jobs I have. And my other job is actually really easy compared to that. But I get more instant feedback, and it's in ways it's being able to enjoy being a lawyer and to have great experiences and try cases and do interesting things has been great. But at the same time, I'm doing those things at the expense of my family. And when we started talking about that in Q source, and I heard guys struggling with the same thing, and hearing the discussion, whether it was about the concentric or not, about applying these leadership principles, which when I first hear it, I think of work settings. And then I start thinking about, no, I need to lead in my own family because I need to do this and I need to do a better job of that. And it just really changed my mindset, changed my approach. And so that Q source at the combine was just really, really significant to me in my development. And so I credit a lot to that. And going into your next question about the shield lock, of course, hearing guys like Patton, I think, was the first one to mention a shield lock to me. And I was just really interested in that and this Q source concept that I was still trying to understand. And so it just made sense to me that the guys I was seeing and posting with every day, we were already sort of doing that anyway. We would have, accountability texts. Hey, where are you posting? Are you pre-running? Come on, you can, so that kind of stuff. And that's really, what a shield lock is to me. It's a group of guys that I feel comfortable sharing what's going on with my life and where I need help. And that they're of course always ready, willing, and able to give it and hold me accountable on the things that I know I need to be held accountable on.
Yeah. How have you balanced that with because one of the things I think is hard, right? Is like you want to get to know everybody, but then you've got to, like, from an accountability standpoint, right? You can't have a shield lock with 20 people. And right. so, I mean, how have you balanced that? So
we struggled initially to try to figure out how we were going to manage our time together as a shield lock. Texting is great because you can always just pick up the phone and pick up the conversation there, but you got to be in person and you got to meet and you got to make time for each other. And so for us, we came up with this idea that we were going to, once every couple of weeks, we were going to meet and do a beat down together. Mm-hmm. And we realized that that's the time that we're already making available. And, it comes with the downside of not being able to post with other guys that day. But it is we get there, we pre-run together. Even Mufasa does the pre-run.
No way.
Unless he sleeps in. Okay. Sometimes we wait for him. And so we'll do the pre-run together, we talk, and then we start really early. So our beat downs are 5:15, and then we all just take turns. So everybody leads for 7 minutes. Oh, yeah. And then one guy is in charge of queuing, and that's the person that's going to pick the location and do a COT and that kind of thing. And then afterwards at 6, we go get coffee, and that gives us a lot of time. Barn Door and I, we have to get going in the morning these days. And so, but that's like 45 minutes where we can just be together and talk. And the person who's queuing usually picks a topic, whether it's free to lead or Q source, or this is just, I need help with this, guys. Yeah. And we'll do that. And so that's really where our shield lock has grown exponentially, was just being able to figure out that that's what's going to work for us. And so I've always recommended that the shield lock beatdown model to other shield locks, because I have found that that's really where we have seen the connections and really gone on a deeper level than I think we would if we're just trying to get together for a short period of time here and there.
Yeah, well, and similar, not a lot different than some of our AOs that have fewer numbers of guys.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah,
We didn't have to reinvent the wheel. Right.
Yeah, which I love. I think it's just so cool. And I mentioned this to cheap seats. When you can look at different guys, right, that are in shield locks, or guys that maybe don't have that layer of accountability, and you just see almost a sense of confidence, or just assurance in who they are, because they know they've got so much support. And so just kudos to you for your efforts there. I think it's really cool to just and looking at the guys, right? So we've interviewed Barn Door, and we've interviewed Cheap Seats. We're interviewing you. I think Mufasa might have some open time in his schedule. He's a busy man, so we may get to interview him, and then someday after he hands the shovel flag, we'll interview Blades.
Right.
So it's just really cool to see all of the guys in that shield lock growing, so kudos for that. So in all of this, right, and to me, this the journey we're on to reinvigorate male community leadership is spiritual in nature. So I want to get your thoughts on the third F. And I think I know we've had some great conversations about the third F in general, but curious your thoughts on kind of your own journey. But then would also love to hear your thoughts on how are we supporting guys as they come in, maybe searching or unsure, or what's been your
I mean, I've talked with a lot of guys about how I think it's really important, and I'm so glad that's a core principle that we're open to all men, and that it should not matter what your belief system is, that you should always feel at home and have a place in F3. And so, to me, when I think about the third F, I think it's about carrying something that's bigger than yourself, and it's about trying to find bigger picture meaning beyond just what it is that is important to you that day, and your selfish ego driven goals and those kinds of things. And that doesn't come naturally to me. I have to push myself to do that. And so to me, the third F is just as simple as knowing that when I am away from the gloom and I find a situation where I don't do well, I don't just have that internal discussion of, I've let myself down, or I messed this up, and, I got to fix that. It's, I'm not living third F, I'm not doing the best that I can to be for the people that depend on me, the people in this community, the things I care about, that I can actually have an impact on, because I'm over here focusing on some mistake that I made that I'm, irritated about.
Yeah.
And then you have the other side of that, the sort of the external, which is getting these opportunities to really be able to see what an impact you can have.
Yeah. And
that's the third F, where whether it's going to things where you're doing whatever kind of charity event you're doing. For me recently, it was Sparty getting me involved in the Boys and Girls Club, and that Escobar and I were able to coach this young man recently through this Boys and Girls Club competition. That was I was texting Sparty about it the other day, because I just was so amazed at what kind of experience it is to be able to work with somebody who is looking at, I got to write these essays, and I got to get prepared for these hour-long interviews with 5 people, and then stand up in front of 250 people and give a 3-minute speech that's very personal and about their lives. And they're 16 years old.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And in between that, he's playing football, and he's wrestling, and he's balancing all this stuff. And so but we were able to make ourselves available to him and share what we could, and just give him the confidence that he needed to go do all those things. And it was extremely rewarding. And that was not something that I would have done before F3. I would have said, I'm too busy for that, or that's for somebody who's more special or more talented than me, that can really have an impact on somebody's lives. That's not something I can do. So the third F to me is about caring about people more than you care about yourself, and realizing that that's actually what brings you real happiness in life. You can search for all the different things that you think you want out of life and pursue those selfish goals, but in the end, it's not rewarding, and it doesn't stick with you, and you don't grow as a person.
Yeah. I love what you shared about just giving it away. It seems so easy. But it's like our self-image or our ego is designed to go just to be in default like self-protect mode, right? And so then naturally it's like, well no, you should do this thing that makes you feel good or look good, or kind of but that's just not, there's never happiness at the end of the self-service. So it's I love that. And how did you get involved with the young man through Sparty and the Boys and Girls Club? Was that just Sparty reached out and said, hey, I got an opportunity? And
I remember about this time last year, Roadhouse telling me about it, and us saying a prayer for his candidate in the gloom that day when he was giving his speech. So that was the first time I had heard about that, and I remember thinking, oh, that sounds like a great experience. But no, it was just a text from Sparty.
okay.
And of course, that's the thing about F3. I think Tonight Show is the one that I heard say this first, was just being in that position to say yes.
Yeah.
That's where I was when I came in F3, was that I had been running by myself for so long and didn't have those avenues to meet new people. And so I was ready to say yes.
Yeah.
And that's, my third F pump was primed,
Cool.
So that when I get a text from Sparty and saying, do you want to do this? The answer is, of course, absolutely. I'll figure out the details later.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. It's just like asking somebody to queue,
Right.
Or getting asked to queue.
Yeah.
Man, your story, I just think so many guys resonate with. And so I appreciate you sharing, all of the different Fs, but also, I know you have a unique story in how the Armory got started, and I think it was you or whoever, maybe it was you, but I recently saw the picture of like the first night of the pop-up.
Yes.
And so I would just love to hear your experience there. And obviously I'm forever grateful because you let me do my COT standing on the tank, and so it's such a cool site, and the origin of it I think was really organic. So I don't know, just share with us how that went from a leadership perspective.
It started with a conversation at a Scooters with Patchy Adams and Crab Cakes, and it was just talking about how we were new to F3 at the time, and we were naive about how the process works for new sites, and how does that even work. But we did want to start talking to people about how, hey, Patchy lives in Waterloo and I'm out in Elkhorn, and so we wanted to try to push this idea that we could have a Western site.
Yeah.
And I love Tahazuka, I take my kids there, and it's close to where I live, and it's a great park. And so when I brought it up, of course, to you for the first time, the thought of being a site keeper, what that was so far from my mind.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, hey, I think people will go, if we build it, people will come. And when you were like, talking me through those kinds of things, and then I started doing what I've really enjoyed doing, which is I love talking to guys about what they're getting from workouts and what they want more of. And, and that was how it started, was, hey, if we opened up a site here, do you think you'd go? If so, what day? Would you go on? And so then we had this idea that it was actually Wait Time's idea that we do this evening pop-up at Tahazuka. And so that was in September, and we met there, at 5:30, and there was 10 of us, and we had Patchy and I co-queued it, and we had this great, beat down. It was perfect weather, and there were a bunch of kids playing soccer there, and their parents were wondering just what in the hell we were doing.
Yeah.
And then afterwards we went to Jukes. And so, I think there were like 15 guys at the happy hour and about 10 at the workout. But, overwhelmingly I heard, yes, we would love to do this. This sounds great. And Friday is definitely the day.
Mm.
And so from there, then it was, I was like, hey, I think this can work. And it was like, okay, well, you're going to lead this thing. So
that's how it goes. Oh,
so, and then, just doing the pop-ups and starting that site and the launch, and where we went from there was just so amazing. The support for that site was so strong and so quick. It was one of those sites that I never had, my problem was trying to make room for everybody that I wanted to cue, and that wanted to cue there, and that, guys to get their VQs there and those kinds of things. It's just been an incredible experience and an honor to start a site.
Yeah. Well, and you even had kind of this rule where you wouldn't let anybody cue there twice, right?
Well, I
Just hearing, I don't know, I've heard that.
I heard that from Grills actually, that was something that when he passed the flag I heard him say, at a workout one time, that just trying to get one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if somebody asked to cue, if they love that site as much as I do, then I just love the enthusiasm. So we definitely had guys, and there were guys that came back they wanted to do their anniversaries, and I was honored to have them and wanted to celebrate that with us. And just seeing guys and the connection that they make to that place and the people that go there has just been so great to see. So we've had some really interesting and fun cues there.
Yeah.
Really memorable ones.
Well, and I love the at the shovel pass, you kind of did you had different stations with different exercises from different cues and guys VQs.
Yes.
So it's just cool to have all of that kind of brought together in one experience. And I think the other thing that is just so cool is, as a site cue, you mentioned kind of mentoring a young man, right, to give a speech, but as a site cue, you have this unique opportunity to build confidence into a man, whatever, regardless of age, race, all of that. So talk me through that, like from a leadership perspective, what did you feel was the benefit, or how did being a site cue help you grow or develop?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to put myself back where I started when I became a site cue and think about what was it like for me in those first couple months, especially the 2 months before I had my VQ.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think Cheap Seats was the first one to mention to me, hey, it was like 2 weeks into it, hey, we got to get you up there, Gator. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? No way. And it just sounded like preposterous that I would cue a workout. And then at some point, I just, didn't know when I was ready to VQ. And it was Armbar that reached out to me and set up my VQ at Top Rope. And that was such an amazing experience. And I thought about how, well, that's what I want to do as a site cue. I want to tell guys that they are ready, and I want to get them on the cue schedule, and if not the Armory, somewhere else. And so that kind of became my mission, was to really focus on that and finding guys like Cradle, who had come out and accelerated great from the beginning, and then got injured and was probably had the good judgment of listening to his physicians, and then didn't post for a long time, got better and came back. But he, sort of missed that window of, the sort of the normal run up to your VQ. And so I reached out to him and said, hey, I don't think you've cued, we got to get you out here. And so that he had a great VQ. We had Tea Party and Chowda and Kobayashi as well. And they were really, really fantastic VQs. Yeah. And that's the thing that I thought is, guys that just need just a little push to know something that they probably already figured out themselves, which is they're ready to lead a workout. Mm-hmm. And so I will many times mention that, especially with all the growth that we've had out west, and seeing these guys, who are posting many times a week and really accelerating, to say, hey, you guys, this was a tough workout today, and you guys all did it, and so that means you can lead too. Yeah. And so for some guys who don't want to plan a workout, say, hey, I'll co-cue it with you, or do a Murph, let's call Blades and let's get you on the Q schedule at Red Wings, because then you just have to do the COT. And so just thinking about those things, that's where my brain kind of sits most of the time these days, is how do I make sure that I can pay forward that great experience that I had early on in F3. And being a site cue is such a great way to do that. Yeah.
Well, and the best way, at least for me, that I found to get out of that self-centeredness is to focus on somebody else, right? And so when you're thinking about, okay, how do I get this guy ready, or just give him the opportunity, right? Because it's such a safe place to lead and then fail and get feedback and do it again. And you hear so often, a guy starts coming, and then his M starts to maybe notice some changes. And I think what is being noticed there is this sense of confidence that I can go and do hard things, and I've got some guys that I can do that with. And it's just so cool to kind of see that light come on. When you think about Armory, I think about Yodel and man, that super awkward pre-blast video. I don't know if anybody else saw that. I think it was a Terminator scene.
It was.
You would know as a movie buff. And shout out to Light Bright for the filming there, right? But anyway, I do think about Yodel and just a cool guy to watch accelerate. And talk us through your kind of how you selected him as your successor and just thoughts about Yodel and his opportunity there.
So Yodel is a guy that was always at the maze, and he was almost always at Dragon's Lair, and so and Wild Kingdom, and so those were my spots, and so I got to know Yodel that way. And he's got just this great sense of humor. He's got such a fantastic perspective because he did not grow up in this country.
Oh.
And so he brings that unique perspective, which he is not shy to share.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he absolutely loves this country.
Right.
And it is so, such a great reminder when you see somebody, who didn't grow up the way you did, who, sees the things that we may take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And, from the beginning for that site, he was the first one in the parking lot for that pop-up. And he was the first one in the parking lot for the day of the shovel flag pass.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just always been so enthusiastic about that site and about West Omaha. And it's in seeing him post more, even though he's, they had their first child,
Mm-hmm.
and he still made time to push himself to post regularly and to continue accelerating. And then he just gives these great COTs where he talks about, his grandmother in Austria being rescued by French soldiers in World War II, and how he feels about the conflict and the war in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a perspective you just don't see every day. And so I think, we've got to get this guy in a leadership role so he can continue to share his perspective with people. Because it's really inspiring. And so I just found Yodel to be one of those guys that I was just glad that by the time I asked him to be the site Q there, that nobody else had first.
Yeah, that's the trick these days, right? Is you got to ask the guy ahead of time. Yeah, it's so cool. I love I can't tell you how many times I feel like we're gonna see the retweet Armory pre-blast that just says there's only one place to post on Fridays. He's a passionate guy, and he loves the site. And
yes.
So it's been cool. I remember he led a workout, or maybe it was IPC, out of the dune, but he had a couple flags on the field and just like
I remember that. We had the Austrian flag and the American flag on the track with him.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
And I also love the banter between I think him and Miyagi about different accents.
Yes,
it's always good to hear that. It's tough being from Australia. Or Austria, sorry, I messed that up. Anyway, in all seriousness, I do want to get your thoughts on kind of advice and maybe with you, where you think we should go. What do we focus on? Like getting a guy to come to a workout one time is maybe not our challenge, right? So how do we continue to give away what so many of us have experienced? What do you think on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of become like I mentioned, that's something just where my brain is just kind of hanging out these days on, what is it that we can do to, get that, not just get that F and G to come back for a second workout, but get him to that next level of a VQ.
Yeah.
And what does that road look like? Well, it's going to be different for everybody, but I believe that if you get a guy to show up and they get the F3 experience and they see the Omaha culture and they're, being encouraged to pre-run, being encouraged to go to cafeteria, going to a happy hour, first Friday lunch, or, Heartland Hope or whatever third F opportunity. If you see guys that are getting those regular pushes in that direction, like what I believe is that makes it happen faster.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think about anytime that I meet somebody new, that, where is it that F3 can really, meet them where they are and get them to go where they need to be.
Yeah.
And, part of that's encouraging guys to get on the Q schedule and get them to VQ, because I think once somebody has their VQ, I think they're in.
Yeah.
I think that's the stickiest glue that we have is there's no better feeling, at least for me, in what it felt like to, do Namarama for the first time and turn it around on yourself and realize, how amazing the last 45 minutes were. And to give a COT and to, just really connect with guys that talk to you afterwards and those kinds of things and the feedback that you get. So I think a lot about how where FNGs are in their lives and how can we best meet them. You hear a lot about it's too early. It's like, well, we have 7 a.m. workouts on the weekends. It's like you just try to find them and just get them to make F3 a consistent part of their life and just get to that next level. And because I feel like once you put down those railroad tracks, you just don't back it up.
Yeah.
You just continue forward.
It's so interesting too, the forces at play that are out of our control. Like I keep referencing Desk Pop, but I think it's because I'm jealous that he's posted 5 times this week and I'm only a 4-day a week poster. But
it's an awesome name.
I initially mentioned F3 to him a year and a half ago, right? And he too early, couldn't come out, whatever. Came out Monday to Coronado, and he's been every day since, and he's pre-ran every day since.
Yeah,
and and he's been to 2 Q sources, right? So I'm like, so it's some of it's just don't stop talking to guys about it that right? Even if they have been reluctant, and sometimes wait for them to ask you about it, right? And just stay consistent, keep growing, and because it's inevitable that we need every guy, and I think every guy needs F3. But I do also want to know, how can we encourage you, when we see you out there, what are you going through? What can we be praying for? What do you need from us?
So I think I mentioned this before. I'm an extrovert. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy getting to know new guys. But I've struggled with mental health issues in my life, and those are the kinds that creep up when I'm not able to run and do the things that I need to do every day. And I've gotten to know guys so well in F3 that when I show up to the gloom and I'm gloomy and not in a good way, they can tell.
Yeah.
And I remember, in some of my periods of time where things were not going well for me with injury, and I was just at the Armory. Yeah, I'd have guys like Tater Tot come up to me and say, "Hey, I don't know what's bothering you today, but you need to let it go, brother." And he just knew that's what I needed to hear.
Yeah, that's good.
And when I was injured, and he was telling me, okay, I get it. I've been there, been injured too. What are you doing for other people? And it was kind of like, oh, well, I kind of just wanted to whine about how I was injured and wanted to feel sorry for myself. You're making me care about others. What's this all about?
Yeah.
And so that's what I need. I need that push. I need that reminder to care about other people. And that's where, no matter what I am dealing with, that's always going to pull me out of whatever funk I'm in or any kind of thing like that. And so if you see me in the gloom and I'm not, if I don't have a smile on my face and I'm not, making dad jokes and puns and quoting movies, then something's wrong.
Yeah.
And so just you can come by and shake me around and slap me around a little bit and say, hey, let it go.
Nice. Okay. We will be sure to do that. I think the other thing is you are making an effort, to get out there. And I see you as our West Sector weasel shaker. And so, it's funny the number of kind of behind the scenes conversations and things that you've had, to reinvigorate male community leadership out in West Omaha. And it's just cool to, you see these sites launching, and we want to let guys lead, but I definitely see all of the efforts you're putting in behind the scenes, and I appreciate that. I know, I just don't think any of us could do it without you. It's been really cool. I do want to pause and just see, anything else on your mind, anything we didn't get to talk about today that you would want to share?
I did want to mention that I want to give a shout out to Doppler and all the other guys in D3.
Oh yeah.
I think that is just an amazing group of guys, and I love what Doppler has done in that culture. When that first started, I was there's a guy in F3 that I'm very close with that is going through a very challenging divorce. And I think all divorce is challenging. I have not been through that. But from what I have seen, I think that there are different challenges, but they're all difficult and they're not easy. And so I just wanted to learn about how I could help this guy and understand more what he's going through. And what I realized time and time again is that if I just listen, that does so much more than anything I could ever say.
Yeah.
And so when Doppler said that it was open to all men, and so I just started showing up and coming out to that and getting to know those guys and hearing their stories and listening to what they're going through. The strength and the courage and the character that those guys have is really inspiring to me. And they have been so welcoming to me. I think I just try to listen, and I try to give them some jackleg legal advice. I'm not a divorce lawyer, but I do understand a little bit about the law when it comes to that. And so just seeing those guys put the work in to really, endure is what the word comes to mind. And I'm just so glad that Doppler decided to do D3, and I'm so proud of that group of guys, and I just wanted to give them all a shout out.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I remember when we interviewed Doppler, and it's just fun, like, Gator shows up to the D3 group and they're like, you got something to tell us, but it was really like just out of this passion for and empathy for guys that are going through something, just how can we support. So I love that. And I think as you were saying that, you maybe just kind of cracked a nut that I've been trying to figure out for a long time. It's just, how do we do what Wait Time does so well, and which is help guys identify their dolphin, right? Because I think the D2X is something that your dolphin and your daffodil. So often, like, I can probably identify the group of people. I don't know what I do really well, and the more we listen to other guys, the more we hear those things and can help them identify it. So I had jokingly, my word of the year was listening for I think it was 2021, and slow pitch and Tater might probably laughing at this, but I didn't do so well. I changed the word just did something else. So I think he just helped me identify where I need to focus, because I really think the more we listen, the more we can help guys identify what they're good at, and give them confidence in those areas too. So, oh man, we're gonna have to do a round two. There's still a lot of unanswered questions. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'll have you on the in-camera review podcast. We'll finish up there.
Yeah, I'm so bad at movie knowledge. I'm lucky. Man, Gator, this has been great.
This has been really, really, really great. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a privilege. I really enjoyed talking to you guys.
Thanks, man. I will do my best pony impression since he had to dip out. But for all of you that think he asks better questions, I have nothing to say about that. All right, let's do a name around. Brandon, we already 36. The plague. Pony. Wait, John Whitworth, 31. Pony Express.
Yeah, Mike Duffy, 40.
Gator. Chomp. And it is a chomp. I think we all know
it is a chomp.
I tried to do mine the other day after Name Rama, and nobody else said it. I don't know if you caught that on Twitter, but hey, love you, Gator.
Love you, man. Appreciate it.
Later.